Ohio State football held its sixth practice of preseason camp this morning here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Stephen Means and Andrew Gillis. And a lot of position battles, or a handful of position battles, that are still open in preseason camp, and one of them is at offensive tackle. And today Ryan Day was asked how things are progressing at right tackle specifically, because we kind of had thought maybe Josh Fryar had just taken over left tackle, and Ryan Day said both left and right are kind of up in the air right now. Both of those guys, you named four guys: Josh Fryar, Tegra Tshabola, Jimmy Simmons, and Luke Montgomery, in that order, is like the four guys who are really kind of out leading that group. And Andrew, were you surprised to hear that both positions might still be open at this stage, going into what Ryan Day says is a critical week leading into Saturday scrimmage for them to kind of start to come to some consensus on what's going to happen at those positions?
A little bit. One of the things that you had read about and heard about, especially for me, coming in on this beat was that, Fryar had played left tackle pretty much exclusively throughout spring ball. And I mean, it felt very set in stone that he was going to be the left tackle. But one of the interesting things that I thought Ryan Day said, and obviously the news was kind of noteworthy that, okay, this is the situation, this is what's going on. One of the things that was interesting to me was that he said these guys aren't left or right-hand dominant or too terribly left or right-hand dominant, and that matters a lot because a lot of people just think, oh, well, left tackle is more important than right tackle. You can just put your best player at left tackle. You can just put your second worst or your second best tackle at right tackle, and then that's your offensive tackle. No, like there's a lot more that goes into it. You can be left-hand dominant and play the left side better than you play the right side or vice versa. So I think that right now it's about, like he said, finding that mix. And it sounds like everything is on the table right now. Sometimes you can kind of hear coaches when they say, everything, we're evaluating everything. And you kind of can tell that there's a way that they're leaning. This genuinely feels like everything is on the table. Obviously, it kind of sounds like Fryar is going to have one of those two spots, but he keeps mentioning Luke Montgomery, and he keeps bringing him up a lot. I'm not saying that he's going to start or that he's going to have a key role, but he keeps bringing him up, and that's notable to me. So, yeah, it sounds like everything is on the table right now, and when he says that, I genuinely believe him.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked before about Montgomery because his name has come up before, and whether we thought that was realistic, that he could start this year as a true freshman, especially a true freshman who had to make some big physical gains just within the last year. When you hear his name today, Steven, do you take that as him showing a lot in camp that he might be just ready for that, or is it a dynamic that is more based on what isn't happening with the other guys?
I think Luke Montgomery is setting himself up to be potentially Ohio State starting left tackle in 2024. I think, yes, he has said his name, but also he's gotten asked about Luke Montgomery, and when he directly got asked, is it because Luke Montgomery is showing you some things, he pivoted to Jimmy Simmons. I think Jimmy Simmons is doing some things, and we only have watched one practice, and he was working with the twos the entire time, which probably shouldn't be shocking, given as you pointed out, he didn't even have a spring anywhere. He was already in the portal, so there was probably some acclimation that he needed to go through in learning the offense and whatnot. But it feels like they put the pads on Wednesday, and Jimmy Simmons started flashing in a way that made people go, okay. Maybe we don't have this as set in stone as we think we have. So I'm very interested to see that on Friday when I watch the offensive. What is Jimmy Simmons doing that, as we talked about with DeJuan Jones 2 years ago, how DeJuan Jones started doing things that made this coaching staff go, maybe we should tweak some stuff here? Maybe Jimmy Simmons is doing that while Luke Montgomery is solidifying himself as, whether he's a starter or not, he's probably the second string left tackle. And then let's have this conversation about Luke Montgomery next year when he's gone through another year of physical development to be in this conversation.
I think you're right. I think it hit my ears the same way too. He did get a follow-up question about Montgomery, and then he said, we really like Jimmy Simmons. That was a thing that he got to. Simmons, the transfer from San Diego State that came in, as you said, after the spring, after he didn't have a spring even with the Aztecs out there. And you're right, we didn't see a lot from him last week, but we said at the time, don't read too much into that. Doesn't mean he's buried on the depth chart already. It means that there's some things that have to go on, especially the first day of camp, second day of camp. You're folding these new guys in before you throw too much at them. So I read that the same way as you, that maybe what they got here and realized was Josh Fryar could play left tackle. They know we'd already assumed he was going to be the starter at right tackle. That's what we kind of assumed coming out of the year. So if Jimmy Simmons proves to you he can be just as good at left tackle as Josh Fryar can be in a short amount of time, then maybe the best five-man combination has Fryar back at right tackle. Because you're breaking in a new guy either way with Simmons. Maybe Fryar can be the best version of himself at right tackle if you can get the same thing out of Simmons at left tackle. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it as we go into when we'll get to watch this team again on Friday morning. So make sure you're getting the text 614-350-3315 because what we see and hear and analyze from Ohio State practice, that's where we're sending it first from Buckeye Talk.